One of the best things that can happen to a person in his life is to have a happy childhood. Childhood is the first stage after infancy. It is the most formative period of man's life. A period where the child should be going to school and playing, developing oneself spiritually, intellectually, and emotionally. But this law of nature is not brought to fruition, as the world of today is filled with millions of child laborers. It's heartbreaking to think that in this age of technology and communications, where we know everything that's happening in the farthest corner of the world, child labor is still allowed to exist. This is one of the biggest roadblocks of human rights worldwide. Child labor is defined by the International Labour Organization as work that deprives children of their childhood, their potential and their dignity, and that is harmful to physical and mental development. That sums it up right there. In an ideal world, our children, our future generation, should be given the opportunity to have a childhood and develop their abilities in the positive environment. Not working in factories or in the fields, without pay in less than human conditions. Poverty and lack of schools are considered as the main cause of child labor. The International Labour Organization has set an international law on child labor that was signed and ratified by most countries. In 1990, the United Nations adopted the Convention on the Rights of a Child, which was ratified by 193 countries. A child is defined as every human being below the age of 18 years. Unless under the law applied to the child, majority is attained earlier. In 1999, the ILO led the Worst Forms Convention, signed by 151 countries, which prohibits the worst forms of child labor such as debt bondage, child trafficking, all forms of slavery or slavery-like practices, forced recruitment of children in armed conflict, prostitution, production of pornography, drug production and trafficking, any hazardous work. There are 168 million children worldwide trapped in child labor, accounting for almost 11% of the overall child population. 100 million boys and 68 million girls. Around half are engaged in hazardous work. Children in hazardous work that directly harms their health, safety, or moral development make up more than half of all child laborers, numbering 85 million in absolute terms. Child labor is a disease that should be eradicated. leaving no trace behind for future generations. It requires cumulative efforts to wipe it off. The future of the world depends on children, since the children of today are the citizens of tomorrow. A child is the father of man. Feeding a child, sending him to a school, and having him experience a normal childhood might seem to be such a small thing, a trifle challenge, but it works miracles.